next we are going to do another compositing exercise, but this time we are going to composite 4 different conversions taken from the same raw file. So what I did here is I took one raw file and then I converted it for the backdrop, for instance, and then I did another conversion that looks best on the bottle top, and then I did another conversion that looks best on the tube, and another one that looks good on the logo. And then I brought all these together and tweaked them a little bit. So I did a composite, cut everything up, and did a little bit of retouching. Okay, so let's start by stacking all the 4 images inside of a single file. So we said we go to File, Scripts, and then Load Files into Stack, add Open Files. And because all these images are the same, we don't need to align them. So we can just click OK. And then we can reorder them. So if I press Command Shift and left bracket, I will bring this layer to the bottom of the stack. So then I can just drag this one down like this. And then if you press Command left bracket, you can bring this one down. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to take the pen tool and I am going to make 3 selections. So first of all, I'm going to select the whole of the face wash, the tube and the cap. Then I'm going to separate the cap from the tube. And then I am going to do another selection for the logo. Okay, so I'm going to go into paths and then create a new path, call this one face wash. So this will be the whole thing selected. So with the pen tool, I can zoom in like this, and then I will try to do a precise selection. It doesn't have to be 100% precise, but I will try to keep it as good as I can. So when I do things like this, I can even cut into this object slightly. That should be fine. Also bear in mind that this is a very high magnification. So this is 1000%. So this is a tiny, tiny detail. Like this. Okay, so this is my selection for the whole of the tube. Next, I am going to make another selection. So I'm going to create a new path, and this time I want to select only the cap. But because I have created a selection for the whole of the tube, I am only going to be precise along the top line here, and then I can just do a rough outline on the bottom, and then later on I can just intersect the two selections and get the perfect selection of the cap. So you will see this later on. Okay, and then I can just go down like this, and then just close this path. So then I will call this one bottle top, like this, and then I'm going to make another selection, which is the logo. So I will go to the top like this, and again I will do it with the pen tool. Okay, so I think this looks good. And then I can go back to the layers. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start from the background layer. So I will go to the paths and then select this path, right click, make a selection, and then feather the radius by 0.5 pixels like this. And then I'm going to create a mask on this layer like this, but I'm going to invert the mask. So Command I to select the inverse. And basically, I think what I really want is just the color from this layer. So I'm going to use the eyedropper tool, I, and select this color, for example, from the backdrop, from the top, somewhere towards the top, like this. And then create a new blank layer. So Command Shift N. I will call this backdrop. And then I am going to press Option or Alt Backspace to select this. Sorry, so if I select this color, and then press Option Backspace to fill this new layer with the color of the backdrop. I will need to tweak this, but let me get on to the next step. So I have the bottle top, but let me go to the tube first. So once again, I will Option click or Command click, sorry, onto the face wash path to select it. Then go to the layers and then create a mask on this layer as well, like this. So what we have selected now is the whole of the face wash on this background layer that we created. We can turn this one off for now, so it's less confusing. Okay, the next step would be to use the bottle top from this layer because it has a better exposure. This one, I think, doesn't look as good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select or load this selection, this path, by command clicking. So press and hold command and click to select, and then to intersect this with the bottle top, I'm going to press and hold Command Option Shift and then click, and then this gives me the intersection between the two layers, and then I only have the bottle top selected. So again, I am going to make a mask like this. So I only have this visible. And actually what I just realized is that this layer needs to go on top of the other one. Okay, and then let's just fix the last one. We will load the logo path. So command click to load it, and then go to this layer and then create a mask for it. So we get the logo as well. Okay, so let me now go back and try to fix some of these things. So first of all, I am going to add a little bit of noise to the background layer because it may look a little bit too clean now. So I will zoom in just to compare, like this, backdrop to the image. I think the image doesn't have a lot of noise, but anyway. So I'm going to go to Filter, Noise, Add Noise, and then add a tiny bit of noise. I think about 1% or maybe 1.5%, like this. I think 1% is fine. So it matches, it blends in a little bit more, like this. And I could even go and, because this looks a little bit too noisy compared to this, I could go to Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur, and then again apply a tiny bit of blur. So I think now these two textures match. So Gaussian blur at 0.5 pixels. Click OK. Another thing I would like to do is just to add a little bit of depth to the backdrop. So I am going to create an adjustment layer, curves, and then bring this up like this, and then use a gradient tool, and then just draw a gradient like this, and then maybe bring this down a bit. So this this just gives you an impression like this is a studio backdrop and the light is falling off as you're going backwards. So maybe I can just adjust this gradient like this. I think this looks good. I'm going to clip this to this layer just to so it's clear where it belongs. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a little bit of a shadow for the bottle, because now it's quite obvious that this has been cut out. So the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to sample with the eyedropper tool the color of this shadow here. Maybe this. And then I will take a marquee tool, the elliptical marquee tool, and then I will draw a shadow like this. I'll make it a little bit larger than the bottle top, like this. Okay, then I will create a new blank layer. So Command-Shift-N. I will call this new shadow 1. Click OK. And then create a mask on this layer like this. And then click on the layer itself and fill the layer with the color that I picked. And then I will go to the layer mask again and then adjust the feathering. Okay, so for now, maybe I can feather this like this, and then reduce the opacity of this layer quite a bit so that I only get a little bit of a shadow like this. And I am also going to duplicate this layer. So duplicate the layer, Command-J. I will rename it. So I will call it the new shadow 2. And then I can load this layer by command clicking onto the mask like this. Then I can zoom in and then transform this selection. So Command T. Actually, no, I made a mistake, so I will cancel this. Right click and choose transform selection like this. And then just holding the Shift key, I will bring this down. I just want to make a kind of smaller selection like this, even less like that. Double click, and then let me bring this up all the way like this. I'm going to inverse this selection by pressing Command-Shift-I, and then fill that selection with black by pressing Command backspace like this. I hope that makes sense. So I just wanted to adjust my mask. Now I'm going to Option click to bring this back. And Another thing I could do is I could try to make this a little bit darker. So I could double click here and then maybe just reduce the brightness like this. Click OK. And then again, fill this layer with this new color. So Option backspace like this. And I think I can deselect and reduce the opacity again. Like this. So if I zoom out, so this is my original shadow number 1. I think it's too heavy. Like this. And then the second one is this. So this adds just a little bit of depth to the whole of the image and to the shadow. Okay. What I can do now is I could try to take these layers like this, shift click, and group them together. So they're all in one place. Command G. So this is the group 1, and then I can call this backdrop. Okay, so I'm going to zoom out. So I have the backdrop ready. The next thing I'm going to do is I am going to retouch this reflection. So I think the easiest way to do this would be to create a new layer and to copy this splash onto a layer of its own and then retouch the image behind it. So let me try to do this. So let me copy this layer, so Command J, and I will call this one splash. And then what I will do is I will go into the quick mask mode, use the brush tool, and then make a selection of this splash like this. Okay, so this is the selection. Now bear in mind that we already have a mask on this layer because I copied the tube. So again, I am going to invert this selection by pressing Command-Shift-I like this, and then I'm going to fill this with black, and this will now give me only the splash, like this. Okay, so what I now need is another layer, so another blank layer, so I'm going to press Command-Shift-N and call this layer Splash Retouch, like this. And then I think I can just use a clone stamp tool to fix this. Let me try to do it like this. I just want to extend this line, like this. And like this. Let me try this once again. So I want to get a better sample. Okay, and now what I can do, I'm going to make a mask on this layer because it doesn't have a mask. And then take a brush, press X to paint with black, and then I'm going to zoom in like this, and then just hide these bits. Let me go back to make sure that I have a very soft brush, like this. So what I want is a large soft brush like this. And another thing I want is, so with a smaller brush, I'm going to hide these areas like this. Then if I paint with white, I can get right to the edge, like this. Okay, so maybe my retouching here is not perfect, but that's the idea. Maybe I could try. Do it like this. And then again, fix the mask. Like this. I think it looks okay. Except maybe for this area. So again with the stamp tool, I'm just going to try to even this out. So this bit. So I'm going to reduce the opacity of the stamp to maybe 30%, sample from here, like this. Okay, I think this looks even. Not perfect, but I think it's okay. And another thing you could do is to do the same on the other side. So again, use the quick mask mode to select these letters like this, put them onto a new layer, and then just maybe extend this part of the reflection down. But I'm going to leave this as is. I think it's okay. Okay, so I have fixed the reflection. Now I'm just going to fix the color of the tube itself. So for example, I think that the tube could be maybe a little bit more contrasty. So I'm going to make an adjustment layer curves and just boost the contrast tiny bit to get a slightly more saturated color like this. Like this, and then do the same thing for the logo. So I'm going to option click to create a curves adjustment layer, and then here tick this box where it says use previous layer to create clipping mask like this. So this will be clipped to this layer. And then just darken the logo, maybe like this. And then if I go down, to the bottle top, I will do the same. Option click and then clip. And maybe this can be a little bit brighter. And the next thing I want to do is to even out the color of the tube. So once again, I am going to go to the paths that we created. I'm going to option click onto the face wash, the first path, and then I'm going to subtract the bottle top from it by pressing Command Option and then clicking. So this will subtract the bottom bit. And then I am going to create another adjustment layer. So adjustments, gradient map, like this. And then I can turn this off so I can see what I'm doing. Double click onto this gradient and then click on to this first box like this, double click, and then select one of the deep blue colors from the shadows like this, and then double click onto the other box like this, and then select one of the highlight colors like this. Click OK, and then OK again. And then we want to bring this back up and then change the blending mode to color like this. And then we can reduce the opacity. So let's say to about 50% like this. And we can again double click onto the gradient, click on one of these, and then we can adjust the gradient itself, the midpoint of this gradient like this. So click OK, and then again we can play around with the opacity. And what this does, if I turn this on and off, you can see that it just makes the color more uniform across the board. So this is off and this is on. Off, on. Okay, one other tweak that I would like to do is, so I'm going to copy everything onto a new layer. So stamp everything onto a new layer by pressing Command Option Shift E, like this. Then I will press Command R to bring up the rulers. Click onto the ruler, hold and drag down a guide like this. And then once again, I can go to the paths, option click to select the whole thing, then press Command T to transform, and then right click and click on Distort. I'm going to zoom in and then just bring this side up a little bit like this, and then double click. Like this, I can take away the guide and press Command D to deselect. So now you could take this further. For example, if you zoom in, looking closely, you can see some bubbles inside of the face wash, but there's also some dust. So we could go and maybe use a healing brush, spot healing brush, and then take these away like that. And then just maybe tweak a few other bits and pieces, like this area here as well, to try to make this look even better. So let's have a look. I think this would be the before and after. So this is the before and after.